Alright guys, hello. In this video, I'm going to share with you some tips that you can use to improve at any sport. I play volleyball. That is my sport. The sport that I love, the sport that I'm good at, so I'm going to use a lot of volleyball references, but you can take these tips and apply them to any sport that you may play. So let's get started. Alright, tip number one that I have for you is to watch pros and high-level players. So go on YouTube, watch all these games, watch all of it, dissect it, slow it down if you need to. Look at their arm swing, how they get up high, how they hit the ball. Watch their arm swing, watch how they pass, watch how they block, watch how they communicate with their teammates, and listen to how they communicate with their teammates. Dissect every little thing that these high-level players do, because if you can see how the sport is to be played, because these players, they get paid to play this sport. So if you can visually see how this sport is to be played, then you can look at yourself and be like, oh, that's how I should do that. So that is tip number one. Okay, tip number two that I have for you is to film yourself. I do this all the time. I still do this, and I'm not in high school anymore. So throughout junior high and high school, always had my mom. She's the best. She's awesome. She would record every single one of my games. And it wasn't just set it up on a tripod and press record and have like a 30-minute long video. No. She would press play at the beginning of the serve, and as the whistle blows to end the point, she would stop it. So I'd have like a million different videos from a tournament. So record yourself playing, and you can compare this to two things. So the first thing you can compare yourself to is compare yourself to the high intensity, the high level players that you have been watching. So compare yourself to the pros, and then as you keep playing the sport and keep progressing, compare yourself to your old self and be like, oh, look how much I improved. Like I went from this little noob, this little baby that didn't know how to do anything, to this great athlete. Or you can be like, ugh, that's a bad habit that I'm still doing that I did when I first started playing. So you can see how you progressed, and you can see what you can still progress on. So compare yourself to the high level athletes and to your old self. So record yourself. So tip number three that I have for you goes along the lines of recording yourself. Record yourself at games and record yourself at practices if you can, or any time that you go play volleyball. Just record yourself, because you can dissect yourself, but you can also dissect the other team. You can watch what the other team's doing, because reading in volleyball is very important. I've become an amazing player. I've become a great player because I can read what the other team's going to do. You can read the arm swing, the shoulders, if they're coming in straight down that line on like an outside attack. If they're just coming in straight and hard, they're probably going to just hit straight down line, so you can line up your body with that. If they're coming in really hard at an angle, they're probably going to hit angle, so you're going to adjust your body and pass on that angle. All right, tip number four, I believe, is to push yourself harder when you are alone. So times when you don't have practice with your team or with a coach or anything, when you're literally just by yourself in the gym with volleyball in hand, push yourself harder, because nobody's there to see you fail. Nobody's there to see you look like a sweating mess that you just like dove into a swimming pool almost. That's how much you're sweating. Nobody's there to see you cry. Nobody is there to see you almost throw up. You should be pushing yourself so hard when you are by yourself. You should be pushing yourself all the time, but when you are alone, push yourself even harder. All right, tip number five. Tip number five that I have is to listen to your coach. Coaches usually know what they're talking about, especially if you're new at the game. You have no idea how to play the game. You need to listen to your coach, because if you say, I know, no, you don't. You don't know. That's why you're here to learn, to have a coach you. Be a coachable player. This will help you so much throughout your sports career, because if you are not coachable, you're not fun to have as a player on your team. You're not fun to have as a teammate, and you're not going to improve. If you're not coachable, you don't listen to your coach, you are not going to improve well at any sport. So, tip number 5, be coachable. Tip number 6 that I have for you is to find clinics or find open practices. Open practices are basically every day. Clinics are like 1 to 3 days long, and they just try to condense a lot of things into those days. But you can meet new people, you can learn from different coaches, and it's fun. So that is tip number 6 that I have for you. All right, now tip number 7. Number 7 is knowing that sports are a mental game. Sports are very mental, because not only is it the mentality of actually like putting your head in the game, not worrying about what anybody else is saying on the sidelines or in the crowd, or what the heck happened at school 2 hours before you came to practice or 2 hours before a game. Get that out of your head. You are mentally on the volleyball court now. You are mentally playing a sport. All the drama that happened at school doesn't matter. You need to put your head in the game. But sports are also mental in the aspect of learning new things. So if you say you've played volleyball for 3 years before, but now you're like, hey, I want to try out for a school team or a club team, and you make it, and you actually are getting coached now, and your coach is telling you completely different things than what you've been used to, and so you have a lot of bad habits. So to break those bad habits, you have to consciously think, don't do this, do this. This is how we hold our hands when we pass for volleyball. We don't cross our fingers. That's not good. You have to consciously think, pancake, pancake, sausage. That's how I learned. So you have to think about these things to break bad habits and to form new ones till it's muscle memory. Once it's muscle memory, then you can think about other things, other aspects of the game, how to actually read. You have to consciously think to read where that hitter is going to potentially hit that ball. You have to read where your blockers are going. Are they jumping straight up? Are they kind of floating? Are they split so there's a hole in between? Sports are a mental game, both in the aspect of cutting out distractions, your head's in the game, and focusing on breaking bad habits, making new ones, listening to what the coach is telling you. It's all a mental game. So those are 7 tips that you can take and apply to any sport to improve tremendously.